Hello, so we're back at Chaos Farm again. The weather is still holding off at the moment, although it is looking rather grey in other places. So I'm hoping we just can kind of get our filming out of the way for today while it's dry. So you might be asking, why are we here? Why are we in the middle of the market garden with all kind of the ploughed field still behind? We are here because we're going to look at the trees. So today is all about how we at Chaos Farm, and actually Farmer Dave as well to an extent, or much to an extent it's Farmer Dave really, how we actually try to help the environment in our own small way. So what we've got here is the last of, so I think this is willow here, I'm not overly au fait with all the trees and the species, but I think that's the last of our willow. We've got some, I believe this is dog rose here, and some silver birch just up here. So these are the last of the trees that we've got from I Dig Trees and the Woodland Trust. So we got all of these trees actually given to us. I think we had nearly 400 trees in total this year, which we've planted. These are the last of the trees. So the silver birch are going to go somewhere that's not quite so shady because they don't like lots of shade. The dogwood are actually going to come within the market garden to actually hello chickens, to actually create a little bit of nice aesthetics really, so to have some nice things around here, probably along this side here, get rid of our electric fence so it looks a bit nicer. And the willow, we're actually going to be starting a second kind of woodland copse really. So the same as last week, we have the dogs, but we've also got the chickens today, so you can hear the cockerels in the background. I think they've seen some of our team actually coming around with the food, so what they're going to be doing is saying, come on, it's our time for food. So today, it's only going to be a little short bit for this kind of this section. Then we're going to go tripsing down to the woods. So you might have maybe a 5-10 minute break in between while we get down to the woods. But the idea is that we actually, Chaos Farm and Farmer Dave, we're actually trying to establish I think it's a second or a third mini copse of woods within the grounds of Chaos Farm. So the reason for this, we're trying to actually lower our kind of our impact on the world and actually trying to kind of create a bit of sustainability really. So although these trees might be 2 foot tall at the moment, in 10-15 years they're actually going to be a lot bigger. So the woodland that we're going to go to was originally planted by Farmer Dave maybe 15-20 years ago with his son, so you can actually see kind of how they have grown. And the idea being that actually, rather than being like some traditional farmers, although that is a broad stereotype, a lot of farms are amazing with kind of sustainability and ecology and just that kind of real renewable kind of resource really. So creating that ecosystem. So that was very naughty of me, but some farmers are take. So rather than being like that, we actually are trying to be different. So within the polytunnels, we've got the no dig system where we're giving back to the soil and the soil flora and fauna. And likewise, we're actually trying to give back in our own small way by planting these trees. So as I say, there was about 400 trees this year. Last year, and no, not last year, the year before, we had nearly 800 trees, I think, from various sources. So although it's not massive numbers, for us as a small team, it is still pretty good, we think, and it's still making an impact. So what we're doing is reclaiming areas of ground that are previously brambles, nettles, not really of very much kind of use in some ways, and actually planting trees there. So a very mixed native, windy, a very mixed native bunch of trees, but the idea being that actually the trees that have already been there that are kind of a bit older, they've kind of rotted away a little bit, they actually are being able to be kept there because they have their own very, very important ecosystem as well. And we actually then introduce newer native trees, so things that are actually going to grow up, create more habitats for birds, for butterflies, for bees, for bugs, and actually also for the ground life, so actually to improve the ground life as well. So what we're going to do is, before we get blown away here, we're going to have a little trundle down to the woods and we'll catch you down in the woods. Okie dokie, so we're down a little bit away from the field where we first were, and this is the first place that I wanted to show you. So we have with us now Tam, our volunteer coordinator and garden extraordinaire, who's going to to technical knowledge, because as I've already said, I have very little knowledge about plants and trees. So this is where Tam is going to come in. So Tam, can you tell us a little bit about what we're kind of looking at here, really?
Yeah, so this area was cleared by Dave, farmer, with his tractor, and he removed a whole load of bramble and scrub. So it's pretty much an underused area. And obviously, since we've been donated these wonderful trees from We Dig Trees, we thought, well, what are we going to do with the hornbeam? And we thought that the hornbeam would do very, very well in this area. So yes, it was cleared, and Ness and I, one of the volunteers, we did some tree planting last week, and yeah, we put the hornbeam in. Hornbeam is if you don't know it, it's a beautiful parkland tree. You sometimes find it in hedges as well. Very similar to a beech tree in its stature. It has sort of slightly smaller leaves, but a different kind of bark. But yeah, so that's what we're looking at here. We don't know if all of them are going to take. So what we're doing is we're having a little bit of a let's see how they fare. It's quite a little open area. Here's Dave now.
Oh, Farmer Dave wants to come out here, so I'm just going to.
Never a dull moment, you know.
Farmer Dave is now going to spread dung, so we're not going to go out that way. We're going to go a different way.
Yeah, so hopefully, as I say, they'll mature and they'll make a sort of feature, little copse of this relatively underused area of the farm.
And would I be right in saying these will take kind of 15, 20 years to mature?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a long-term project.
Yeah.
You know, planting trees, you're not going to see the fine results really. Yeah, about 20 years, you'll start to see something. The canopy will start to close over and so on, which would be really nice. Yeah.
There's a wonderful quote that I've just thought of when you were saying that, that I can't remember entirely, but it's something along the lines of those who plan for tomorrow live for today, or something like that. It's about like long-term planning. So although we're planting these now, we won't actually see the benefit for maybe 20 years, but actually in 20 years time it will look beautiful, like Tam has said.
Yeah.
So
very, very good, very, very true. And you know, there's another quote saying, a wise man will plant a tree now that he won't get to sit under, but perhaps his family will, you know, his sons and daughters. So that's the philosophy really. Long-term thinking, long-term planning, very long-term project. Good for the environment.
So what we're going to do is we are going to stop here and we're going to go down the road. We were planning to go through this way that Farmer Dave has obviously just been through, but with the muck and him spreading the muck, we don't really want to get covered. So we're going to take a different route, which is going to take a few minutes longer. So a change of plan, rather than kind of us continuing through the field where we planned, we're going to go down the road. So what we're going to do is come back to the studio with you for a couple of minutes and see you in a minute, where we can show you the grander, larger scale copse that we've been adding to. See you in a minute. Okay, so as you can see, we are in a different place again. We've still got Farmer Dave in the background, just kind of doing his muck spreading. But we are in the grander woodland, I should say, or our bigger copse. So Tam, can you just give us a little bit of an idea of what you've planted in this area? Yeah,
so this area we've planted a few more trees to add to the existing copse and woodland, which was obviously, it's been here for some time. Jess has just told me that her brother planted it with her father about 20 years ago. And so in this woodland we can see that we have some blackthorn, we also have some sycamore, some mature sycamore, and we also have planted more recently, like literally in the last couple of weeks, some more trees which are hazel trees and beech trees, really just to continue to populate this area with trees. What's lovely about this part of the farm is really, you can see, if you have a look at the understory here, this wonderful understory which is so good and diverse. You've got these magnificent hart's tongue ferns. They've already unfurled. In fact, I'm not even sure if they ever went away, but it's a really sheltered area. And then you've also got some ground ivy here. You've got arum lilies,
We've got
which
some
again
campions
are,
as well,
are
even.
really, really, really beautiful and an indicator really of quite ancient woodland. So we're really re-establishing here what would have existed prior to this area was actually brought into cultivation. And now, if you like, as a field margin, we're taking it out of active cultivation and we're really increasing the biodiversity. Another thing which is really lovely to see here, talking about flowers, is we've got a little bit of campion, which has already started to flower.
There's some more just back by your.
It's a little bit here. Here we are, beautiful pink campion. So yeah, we've got a really nice understory, and of course, you know, this is important for all sorts of reasons.
It is, and we've got quite a few kind of older trees or branches that have fallen down as well. And that in itself, they are really good, aren't they? The dead and dying kind of branches and trees.
Oh yes, yeah. I mean, to deliberately leave dead and dying branches around, some people say it's untidy, you know, but actually it's a really important part of the cycle of a woodland. There are many species which really require the dead wood, not only feed off it, but they also maybe lay their eggs there and have a stage in their life cycle which is dependent on the dead wood. And so if you over-tidy woodland and you take it away, actually what you're doing is you're depleting those species from the site. So there'll be less of them. Now we all know that there's a big problem with biodiversity loss in the UK. They reckon about 40% of species are in decline. It's huge.
Yeah.
So, you know, anything that we can do like this through increasing woodland, increasing habitat, yes, leaving the dead wood, leaving areas not maintained, but to go semi-wild is a really good thing. Yeah.
And that kind of does bring back into a little bit what I was saying a bit earlier, that actually we are, although it's on a small scale kind of broadly, we are actually still going to be making an impact for different species. So even if it's just within our little part of the world, it's still going to be having an impact on a numerous amount of species, presumably.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not just the invertebrates that benefit. I mean, you've got the life which is in the soil, you know, which is really benefiting. And then, of course, everything that flows from that. So there's obviously going to be ecological niches. There are going to be animal species, birds, mammals, which are going to then eat those species.
Yeah.
And then obviously going right through up to the top predators. So really, you have to start off with quite a large, diverse base, ecological base, a biodiverse base. And then from that, everything flows. So if you look after the little things, then the big things really will look after themselves. So that's what it's all about. Yeah.
And when we first came up here a minute ago, Tam went, "Oh, I've got to do this! I've got to do this!" So we're going to start taking off the few of the kind of these tree guards. Thank you. That were left from actually when Farmer Dave and Welly actually didn't take them off the tree. So this one has, as you can see,
vintage tree guard. I'm just going to carefully remove it. You can actually see that there's even some sort of little snails and things underneath there. But really this tree, which I think is some sort of acer, is fine. You know, it's got really nice large girth. It doesn't really need the tree guard anymore, so we can take that one off. But the tree guards are to protect young trees from things like voles and mice and even squirrels that might, you know, nibble around the bark of the tree, and in so doing they actually can kill the tree. They can, if they nibble all the way round, they do a thing called ring barking. So that's why we put the tree guards on, to protect them from being nibbled. So there's another one over there. I'll go and take that one off. I'm not quite sure what happened with this one. Maybe it looks like, I don't know, it's even got the original stake. Look at that. I'll take that one off. It doesn't really need it. It's nicely mature now. Got to be a bit careful because otherwise the plastic can break. There we are. And then look at this one. Properly mature. Look at that. So that's been there some time.
But it
a
shows,
nice mature tree.
it shows the tree guard has done exactly what it's supposed to, though, doesn't it? And actually, it's just broken apart and let the tree grow through.
Yep, it's done its job. It's done its purpose. So I just want to draw your attention to this lovely little copse of hazel that we have over here. So if you have a look at this stand of trees. Now, I'm not quite sure when these were planted, whether they were planted at the same time or not. But it looks like they have been deliberately planted. And at some point, it looks like, well, you can see that they're actually suckering in a habit that hazel has of sort of having younger shoots from the base. Can you see that? So you've got the mature original hazel that was planted, and then you've got the younger shoots which come around it. If I go down there, I can show you a bit better. Part of the original tree that was planted, and then you have these lovely suckers. And what we can do is we can bring these into more active coppice management. So we could select, you know, the odd tree and go, right, we're going to coppice that one on a 3-year rotation, which would mean that we'd be able to harvest hazel every 3 years of a certain diameter and use it for one purpose. And then perhaps if we wanted to harvest hazel that had a slightly wider diameter, say 15 years, then you could allow it to grow to this diameter, and then that would be good for maybe using in your fire or something like that. So really is what your purpose is, you can select different hazels of different ages, or hazel branches of different ages, and depending on when you cut them, that will determine you know, what they're used for. You see here you've got quite a thick canopy. Well, as soon as you start to coppice, what you're doing is you're opening up parts of the canopy. And actually, as I mentioned before, allowing the light in actually increases the biodiversity of the woodland. What you'll do is you'll stimulate growth of the ground floor. You'll see here, because it is been quite closed over, you haven't actually got so much wildflowers here. So we've just found an owl pellet. So all the fur is obviously and the bones are the parts which the owl can't digest, and so it just spits out, essentially eats the rest of it and just spits out the bits that he can't eat. Yeah, and they call these owl pellets. And so all of those bones, they're going to be like the jaw bones. In fact, you could actually identify exactly what it's been eating through studying those bones. So that's brilliant. Now, I couldn't tell you exactly what kind of owl that is, whether it's a barn owl or what, but how brilliant is that? So you remember I was saying about the top end predators? That is a fantastic indicator of everything that we're doing in this area of the farm, and in fact probably across a wider landscape where this owl is hunting, is spot on. Aha! Another tree guard. Look at that. So that just shows you if there's definitely a need for these trees now to be brought into active cultivation for us. I'm going to have to snap that one off. There we are. The ivy's actually grown through the whole of this one. I don't know what to do, I think I'll have to rip it. There we are. So there we are, hazel. So we've planted more hazel as well, so we're expanding this coppice over the years.
I don't know what they are, whether they're crocuses or whether they are snowdrops. There's loads of, like, you can see them all around. Can you see?
What, these ones?
No, the little shoots.
Oh, right, yeah.
Those ones.
Oh, fab, yeah.
Are they crocuses or are they?
It's a bit late for snowdrops.
Well, snowdrops have just come up in my garden.
Are they?
Yeah, so that's why I wonder, because they're very similar leaf, aren't they?
Yeah.
So it might be snowdrops, because there's loads all around here.
Fab.
But also, this is obviously a dead or dying tree.
Oh, yeah.
I think it is actually very dead. But you can see all the different fungus that we've got on it. And then the kind of mosses and everything. I just thought it's so pretty. And if you look at them, I just touched them, they're so soft. They are, like, I know they're jelly fungus.
They're sort of
spongy, and they are very, very soft, but there's so many different shapes and kind of, you can just see some little tiny ones starting here. But it just shows that actually there is a massive ecosystem here, which is brilliant. Yeah,
and actually, you know, snowdrops are, all wildflowers, you know, are protected. It would be lovely to expand, you know, the snowdrops which we've got help
Yeah.
them along a little bit.
It would be. There's loads.
know.
I mean, I was just looking a minute ago, and you can see them all over around these trees over here. So obviously, it's not got the
nice.
ground ivy here as much, and
Well,
there's the
other
foxgloves
thing is,
as well.
The other thing is, of course, it's going to be a bit lighter here. It's a bit more open. It's more close to the top of the hill. You know, there's obviously there aren't so many down there, so that's quite interesting. No, that's great.
So there we go. So probably we've now had a little bit of a look. I think Tam and I are probably going to come back and we're going to take some more of the tree guards off, because now I'm looking, there is actually quite a few that have obviously not been taken off when Dave and Welly did it kind of 15, 20 years ago. And I think, if I'm right, the hazel, many years ago, there was a competition in a yogurt, on the top of a yogurt pot, and you had to save the yogurt pot lids. And I saved them all, and those are the hazel that we got from them about 20 something years ago, I think.
Brilliant.
And we didn't know where to plant them, and I got them, and Farmer Dave went, "What the bloody hell have you done that for?" And I said, "Wow, it's all good, it's all generating an ecosystem." And that was like ages ago, and I know he swore at me at the time, but I think that's the product of it. So now, rather than just a few trees, we're actually expanding.
And of course, Bob is growing peas. We've got lots of peas we are growing, so we'll have some pea sticks, plenty of pea sticks.
So altogether it works. Yeah. So anyway,
well done. Oh, that's great.
Exactly.
What a nice story.
I know, it's all comes around. So we're kind of, I think, running out of time now. So we're going to say goodbye for today, and we will catch you next week. I know that last week I said that we were going to be talking about our lumps and bumps and mounds in the field by the polytunnel. Unfortunately, the weather hasn't been our friend, so that might come next week. Not sure. We'll have to wait and see. But next week we are definitely going to be seeing the Men Outside group. So join us next week and see a few different faces. See you next week.
Bye.